Hinamoto used to be a land ruled by humans, but one day the Kishin, the beasts of the sky, invaded everything. The lords and warriors of Hinamoto were defeated one by one, and here a group of brave warriors emerged who continued to resist Kishin. They were called Bushi. Nowadays, most people in Hinamoto worship the Kishin and despise the Bushi, believing them to be violent rebels who destroyed the world. Musashi, a mining apprentice, is one of the few who knows the truth. He learned it from his friend Kagero, whose father was Bushi. Musashi is praised for being the best student in his school, but he secretly hates the Kishin and wants to join the Bushi, so he and Kagero vowed to start their own Boshi band when they were kids. Musashi visits Kagero and tells him he still wants to fight Kishin with his weapon, even though he graduated as a miner the next day. Kagero tries to dissuade him by saying that being a Bushi is dangerous and unpopular. Kagero advises him to live a normal life, but Musashi is determined to prove his seriousness. But the reason why Kagero says those words is because all the people in town avoid Kagero because he is the son of Bushi. On the day of their graduation ceremony, Musashi and his classmates are taken to a place where they are supposed to serve the Kishin masters. But they soon discover that they are in fact slaves who will be tortured and eaten if they disobey. Musashi decides to fight back, but realizes that his weapon is being taken away from him, and therefore he has nothing to fight with. So he decided to fight with a mining axe. Musashi attacks a Kishin guard, but his weapon is destroyed by his opponent's strength, and before the monster attacks his final attack and kills him when Kagero appears and saves him. Kagero then gives Musashi his weapon as well as his sword. Then they manage to kill some of the Kishin guards together, but then they see a sign in the sky that indicates a Kishin is coming down. They ride their kaitsu, a flying mount, and fly towards the Kishin. It looks small and weak at first, but it quickly grows bigger and stronger after eating some metal offerings from its loyal followers. Musashi cuts it in half, but it heals itself and swallows Kajiro's sword. Kajiro is heartbroken by losing his sword, which he had a love-hate relationship with. Musashi decides to get the sword back for him and climbs up the Kishin's body. He dodges its attacks and digs into its stomach, where he finds the sword. He comes out alive with the sword in his hand, and Kajiro thanks him for his friendship. But their victory is short-lived, as they see a fortress in the sky approaching them. It belongs to a band of Bushi who have come to fight the Kishin and free Hinamoto from their oppression. They descend on their kaitsu and attack the Kishin with their weapons. The leader of the Bushi notices Musashi and Kajiro and tells them to get out of harm's way. The leader of the Bushi informs Musashi and Kagero that they have already killed the Kishin, but points out that the Kishin are recovering. He tells them to leave the fight to the Bushi, but Musashi is angry that they are stealing his prize. He ignores Kagero's warning and goes into battle. The Boshi leader returns to his group and prepares to attack Kishin's core. Musashi attacks the Kishin, but his weapon has no effect on his regeneration. Here he is pulled back to Bushi's base by the commander and saved from certain death, so he introduces himself and his name is Naotora from the Takeda division. The leader asks Musashi to give up his dream of becoming a Bushi, as he is too weak and at some point will cause his death. But Musashi refuses to listen and breaks free from his grip. Then he returns to battle. At that time, the rest of the Bushi prepare a powerful magic attack to strike Kishin's heart and kill him. But Musashi reaches the monster before them and uses a devastating blow that destroys the ground on which the monster stands, so the monster loses its ability to move. However, this causes the attack of his remaining Bushi to fail. Musashi tries to cut off the Kishin's horn, but his weapon turns into fragments due to the Kishin's thick skin. So the Kishin prepares to shoot Musashi, but Naotora appears, and with his deadly blow cuts the horn of the Kishin easily. Here the Kishin disintegrates and the Bushi absorbs his strength, so his body turns into shiny dust. Later, Naotora tells the villagers that he killed their Kishin and that they are safe, but the elders accuse him of resisting the Kashin without reason. They say that it has been 150 years since the Kassites were conquered, and that the Bushis will not be able to conquer the Kassians and they will end up in a war without hope of surviving. Naotora quietly assures them that he will exterminate the Kishin and restore freedom to the humans of his generation. Before they leave, Naotora acknowledges Musashi and Kagero's efforts, even though they weren't trained Bushi. Musashi was annoyed by his sarcasm, calling them samurai who steal the kill. Naotora admires his spirit and gives Musashi a huge crystal as a gift. Then he and his team leave. At home, Musashi and Kagero discover that the crystal is a compass that shows them where the Kishin are in the province on a map. And when they try to locate the Kishin, they see that there are hundreds of Kishin with different names, and a prophecy of a human hero who will unite the land and fight the Kishin. Musashi goes to meet Nayatora and tells him that he will be the one to unite the earth instead. The next day, the two go out into the outside world for the first time. They promise to get along no matter what, but after a few days they run out of fuel and food. They start bickering with each other, and in order to survive, they decide to start hunting. Kagero proves that he is competent at hunting, but Musashi is terrible at it, so he continues to try to hunt in other places. When he returns to his place, he finds Kagero injured on the ground, and here a girl appeared and attacked him from behind, demanding that he give her the valuables that he had with him. But since she is just a young girl, Musashi easily overpowers her with his strength. They continue to fight, but she can't hurt him at all. FA tries to seduce him with her feminine charms, but he does not fall for her, so she waits for an opportunity to stab him with her knife, but he remains awake, so the girl decides to fight seriously this time, but then she remembers that her time is up, so she steals their bike and goes home. At home, she apologizes to her master for failing to obtain anything of value except Mount Kaitsu. Her master, Katsuhideo of the Kasumito division, takes her lightly and praises her efforts. He then calls her Tsugumi and hugs her. The two boys track their bike to the entrance of Kasumito's castle. Inside, they find Tsugumi, who shows them where their bike is. They are shocked to find an entire town inside the castle. She explains that all Boshi castles are like this, and the villagers give everything to Boshi. In town, she reveals that she had a sister that she was protecting, but died in battle. At night, Katsuhideo treats them away, and tells them to join his band in removing demons in the area. He offers to share Mount Kaitsu with them. They tell him they don't know what Kaitsu is, so he loses interest in them and orders Tsugumi to tie them up. They are locked in a dungeon. Later, we see Katsuhideo abusing Tsugumi and making her do whatever he wants. He reveals that he plans to mobilize all the villagers to fight the demons the next time they appear, even children and old people who can't fight well. Tsugumi tries to argue with him, but she can't go against his will because he is all she has. Later, she goes to visit them in jail and explains to Musashi and Kajiro that the kaitsu is the shining dust absorbed from the kitchens. As she talks, they find that she is struggling to maintain a strong front. They encourage her to speak up, so in her mind she sobs as she doesn't want the villagers to fight. She then leaves the scene in anguish since she say her feelings out loud as the demons approach the castle. Kajiro helps them escape the cell, so they arrive outside. Inside, the Lord orders Tsugami to go equip the entire villagers. In tears, she manages to oppose his idea. Although the Lord tries to hit her, he suddenly begins sobbing. He plays a little mind game before threatening to throw her out of his band since she is useless. With this, he succeeds in keeping her in line once more. After he leaves, she gains new courage by looking at her sister's photo. But still, she can't get the Lord out of her head since she is literally his puppet. As she struggles with herself, the boys arrive at the scene. They encourage her in their own way, so she gets her confidence back. Later, they plan on how to save the people from certain death. At the same time, the Lord gives them a speech about self-sacrifice. The villagers freak out, but can't escape since his soldiers have the exit blocked. Just then, Tsugumi creates a smokescreen. She then begins talking to convince him to stop the madness. However, he soon figures out she must be stalling for time, but he is too late as Musashi and Kajiro have already put the guards. Surprisingly, the villagers do not run to safety since they are all terrified of him. On seeing this, she decides the only way to stop him is to confront him. The Lord entertains her, so the battle begins. Shortly after, the Lord overpowers her since he is the one that initially taught her to fight. He stomps her repeatedly for her insolence while the villagers watch in horror. As he blabs, she spits on his face and rises to continue the battle. This time they activate their blades to attack each other. As he fires at her, she uses her whip to restrain and force him down while the villagers escape. As the demons approach, she resigns herself to perish, so her life flashes before her. At that moment, she is rescued by Musashi.